Welcome to Drill Talks, an immersive series with icons, innovators, and knowledge sharers of the drilling industry. This is part 3 for the Matrix Drilling Products team. It's called Thrive in the Matrix, sharing knowledge to advance the industry. If you haven't checked out part 1, Welcome to the Matrix, and part 2, Down the Matrix, go check them out. We had so much fun filming this series and going back and forth and collaborating about the discussion that we wanted to have, that Nate and Chris said, Brock, sit down at the table. We got to do this third one together. So I got to sit down with Nate and Aaron and Art and Chris and laugh and have fun talking about first days on the job, training, your replacement, to what does it take to be an innovative company, R&Ding the right tools and equipment, listening to your customers, understanding early adopters, and sometimes when we have to say no. Sit down, buckle up. This is going to be one heck of a ride. Be prepared to hit rewind and re-listen to some of this great knowledge dropped by Chris and Art and Aaron and Nate. I had a ton of fun with these men. I know you are too. Thanks. Welcome to Drill Talk. This entire episode will be on sharing knowledge, field experience, where our industry should be going, how do we recruit the next generation, and just a great discussion with 4 great men in this industry that are helping promote where we're going to go next. And then me, Brock. So we'll get right into this. Aaron, talk about your first day on a drill site after college, that very day number 1.
Well, it was actually before college. And I'll tell you what, I got sent down to knock on a company man's door and ask for the key to the V-door. Didn't know any different, didn't know what the hell that was, didn't it's drilling. I assume there's lockouts and tagouts I learned in my training. So at about midnight, because it was morning tower, and the company man's like, get your butt in here. All right. What are you here for? I need the key to the V-door. Now, you just sit down. We're going to teach those guys a lesson. So my whole first shift, which was 8 hours, was sat in a company man's trailer. And about 6-7 hours later, they come looking for me, making sure I'm not dead. And the company man had made me like scrambled eggs and bacon, and the crew was mad, all because it was a joke. But unbeknownst to me, as a new person to the drilling industry, I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And was it a fair trick? It probably was.
Yeah.
But it backfired on them because they thought that guy was going to get all mad and then send me back. I got paid to do nothing and a breakfast.
What a wonderful moment to start a career as, being a very heavily family-based business. And then you have the newcomer that comes in, or, we don't pull the curtain back very well. And that could have absolutely went the most opposite direction. And who knows if you would still be sitting in this seat today if that guy had jumped down your throat, those guys had continued to haze. And what a wonderful way to start a career.
Yeah, the worst was that 2-hour truck ride back to town.
Yeah.
Because now I had all these enemies because I had to tell eggs and bacon, and they had nothing. Shay, right?
Art?
Oh, as vivid as we're sitting here right now, guys. Middle of nowhere, Nevada. Get out of the pickup. Said to be there on Monday morning, ready to go at 3:00 in the morning. I was there ready to roll. And crawled out of the pickup, looked up, and was like, "The heck we doing here?" Right? Thank goodness my little brother was there to kind of guide me through the ropes. I grew up in the logging industry, so a hard hat was pretty normal. I didn't have a hard hat. Well, I didn't want to be that guy, right? Everybody around that, three of us on that drill rig, not a person one had a hard hat on. No steel-toed boots, everything's above your head, right? And after about an hour and a half, I'm nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, right? Going, oh my goodness, what the heck's gonna happen, right? And the driller, every question I asked, it was always answered with, you don't know, do you? With some other adjectives in there, but some other words in there. And I go, no, it's the question, right? Not a lot of opportunity to learn. Just learn by failure, right? And eventually got to a point, real short period of time. Look, I'm not going anywhere. I think I would like this industry. I mean, if you're not going to teach me, show me, tell me, I'll find somebody else who will. And eventually got to that point, right? And found some people that wanted to share what they knew. And when you do that, you know, thankfully in my case, when you ask questions, it creates more questions or more answers, and questions that create questions, right? And I said earlier, some of the best questions come from the dumbest eyes, right? So it was definitely on top of the dumb pile for a while. Happy to be there.
Chris.
First day in the industry, on a drill rig, on a very, very small CS 500, little aluminum fly rig, British West Indies, Montserrat, drilling on an active volcano with two guys I'd never met before. They're both great guys, but they understood that I got hired by the company to eventually become their boss. And it was rough. They although they were gracious, they weren't worried. They weren't necessarily stressed out if I decided I was going to fail and be done with this, right? But the both of them, you know, I mean, I went into it pretty much same as Art. Hey man, I'm here to learn. I'm not here to tell you guys anything. I don't know what to tell you. I can't tell you anything. I'm here to learn. And you guys are the method with which I get to learn. So either train me, be the best I can be for you, with you, or keep sending me to look for the Vidor key. Right?
Right.
And that little fly rig, that's hard to find the Vidor key because you can't even find the Vidor, right? But yeah, you know, I mean, so it was rough and bumpy and you know, and this feeling of being a roughneck and I don't know, was kind of prevalent in the industry, right? And I've seen at least when I was in the other way around, that there were opportunities to learn, there were opportunities to come along. Now, not everybody that came through the door was suited for the industry, and it became apparent quick. And you know, with a pretty professional talk, you could suss that out and help them get on their right way. But rugged, wild, crazy, eyes wide open, trying to learn everything I could, and learning, you know, which sack was gel and which sack was, you know, additive or poly, and not mixing them up. You know, crazy first day.
So Nate, you have a completely different perspective. You have two pieces. One, you have a brother that went through college and science and, you know, civil engineering, and then suddenly he's in another world on a drilling project where drilling's a secret society. And two, in your career of leadership and everything that you've worked on, you're now in this industry. And I know you're intuitive enough. You've been on some drill sites now. You've seen some stuff. So,
Well, yeah, I had the unique experience of not having been on a drill rig of the five of us here on camera today. And so I bring a different perspective. At least I hope that I do. But that's not to say that in my career I haven't had those go find the Vidor key moments, right? So, you know, as you do, you gain that experience. It has been a fantastic career, but one that I couldn't have planned or mapped out. There's just no way to
be able to do that. And so I have the fortune of being tied closely to Chris, who is at his core a creator, a solution maker, and knowledge of tools, knowledge of engineering, knowledge of mathematics, and how to bring things forward in the world. I hope to be able to match that with financial acumen and business discipline, and a whole heaping of have fun. We got to make this fun and an experience that's worth going for, so that by the time we're done, we wrap things up when we're tired, which is a long time from now, I think still. But by the time we get there, we look back and say, we did something that was worth it. And drilling as a pursuit, as a discipline, as a vehicle for bringing solutions into the world is now the focus. So where do we go from here? I think this is the greatest conversation that we could be having. I'm thrilled to be at a table with these fine gentlemen, and not represented here are the others in the organization that we work with on a day-to-day basis, who really are the unsung heroes who help make it all come.
That's a great point. Where do we go from here? We can see with the federal infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Defense Production Act for us to mine for more rare earth minerals here in the States, the water crisis we have going on, geothermal, cathodic. There's a lot of drilling going on. And I'll go right back to you again, Nate. Being a man of finance, typically you want to invest your money in, the lowest risk possible. What's the advice out there to get into drilling?
Right. I mean, gluttons for punishment, or we got a tiger by the tail, so to speak. And the one thing about drilling that I think that is I've collected data along the way is it is the beginning of just about anything that you do in the world, whether it's build roads or build infrastructure or build skyscrapers. There's a drill at the beginning of everything. And even if we come down to just the simple aspect of finding clean water for the folks of this great nation, being in service of that is worth pursuing, and it's on the top of everyone's mind. So putting our money in drilling, absolutely. 100%.
Art,
Yes,
on
sir.
that same idea of putting money into drilling, you got a vast career of experience. If you were to build a drilling company out right now, how would you do it? And Chris and Aaron, you can start thinking about this because you got the same thing.
Yeah.
Coming at us. Yeah.
First and foremost, the right people, right? Your people need to believe in what you believe in. And those are the people we talk about, trusting people to do what you hire them to do a job, you trust them, and you don't need to provide oversight, but provide guidance, teaching. I say this, I'll say it over and over again. That's the only thing that a lot of us will have to offer the world is our knowledge, right? I get hit by the beer truck tomorrow, that's all gone, right? So let's share that. And nothing makes me more satisfied than seeing people come through the door, that ratio, and it hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot. You keep 1 in 3, right? 1 in 3 makes it to the next step. Hopefully we can change that by automation, by simplifying, because it's a hard job, right? You get up before the sun comes up, and you go down when the sun goes down, right? And it's physically, mentally challenging elements, all the components of this job. You find good people that you trust, good people that you're willing to invest in, right? Willing to put your trust in those folks, and most importantly, help them grow. Like Chris said a minute ago, that's not for everybody's, this ain't for everybody, right? As we all say. Me personally, there's things that, as a proud father of 6 and a grandfather of 10, yeah, I know I don't look that bad, do I? But I've always made it a point to make sure that I do my darndest to make sure that this world and teach people that leave it just as close as how we found it. Right? Don't harm anything. Excuse me, don't harm anything as we go through our careers, our lives. Hopefully I answered.
That's an excellent answer.
I have this friend that many years ago, he said, if I win the lottery, I'm going to start my own drilling company. And I laughed at him and I go, I'm going to buy an island, man. The furthest thing I want to do is be involved with drilling. Of course, neither of us won the lottery, so he didn't start his own company. But I think if you were to step off into being involved in the drilling business, you got to find out what your niche is. What are you good at? Art mentions, you got to have good people. Okay, well, where do you find those good people? If you're going to start a business, you don't want to be, all the way in California, but you want to do drilling projects in Boston, Massachusetts. It just doesn't work. The people won't work. The retention doesn't work. But water and environmental is on my heart a lot. I've been around so many different technologies that's used for environmental drilling and for water well drilling. I think if I was to be involved in a business that I had my own drills, the biggest thing is safety. Find the best rig that you could get that's the safest so that you could try to eliminate the people component from it to some extent. It's no different than what's going on in our industry now, with AI and other things, but figure out a way to simplify your workers, try to make their jobs easier and try to make them happier. Find a happy niche where you can bring them into a good place. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a project where I saw one of my old oil and gas rigs that's been refurbished to do water well. You'd have never thought in the world that rig would go do water well, and guess what? It's doing water well work, and it's doing it successfully. It's actually on its probably biggest, deepest hole it's ever drilled in its life, given lifeblood. And so, it's probably a little overkill for what they're using it for, but they're getting the job done. They repurpose something. But for me to dive off in it, I'm a big advocate for sonic drilling. I love the sonic rigs. I love the technology. I love what we've been able to do with it in advance. And like Nate said, coming into this conversation, everything that you do in this world starts with some kind of drilling.
Yeah.
We even talked about Armageddon. What they do, they drilled on an asteroid. So, we've drilled on Mars. We've drilled on the moon. We've drilled all over. Let's drill and let's focus on things that we know and that we're good at. And for me, that's what I'm at. So.
Chris, I know you lie awake at night just thinking about that moment you start that other drilling company. I'm too fat to be an astronaut, but at some point they're going to need somebody that knows how to do drilling on an asteroid, and that's kind of what I keep.
Zero G drilling is going to be interesting. It's gonna be something.
Start with both at training, all right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you bring that up. We just did a Hewitt training, helicopter evacuation, underwater training, right? And at a Bosiet class, and in some of the training, they'd said something that I think was absolutely phenomenal, that every business should take to heart, no matter what you do in this world. And the acronym was PAIR, P-E-A-R, people, environment, assets, and then your reputation. If you can put your business in order to protect things in that order, in the end, you're going to be successful. You might not make the millions and millions that you want to make, but you're going to be successful. You're going to keep families employed, and you're going to keep people working, and you're going to keep our industry and this country moving the right way. And it has a far more reaching effect in the world and in the future. So again, it comes down to a few of these aspects that each one of you have talked about. Reputation is something that everyone really wants to have a stellar reputation, but that comes from focusing on the other things upstream.
Yeah.
When you focus on the right things, reputation precedes you, and people will be like, okay, this is who we want to be involved with. This is who we want to team with. Because ultimately, no one group can do everything. They have teams. Even people who build electric cars and spaceships have teams to get this stuff done. They don't do it all on their own back. And so success in any business, success in the drilling business comes in that particular event or flavor, I think. When you worry about the people, they worry about you. They stay awake at night thinking, oh, how can I keep this business going? What can I do to be better? How can I? And that is a team effort. You're all moving in the same direction. You don't show up in the morning and there's that one guy with the cancer, like, oh, I just got to wait 2 more years till I retire. I hate this place. I hate everybody here. You don't find those people in those institutions. You don't find the people that are saying, I mean, they might ask you to do the VDOR on night 1, but on night 2, they're bringing you in and they're helping you, right? They're not ostracizing you or pushing you away. They're bringing you along, which is really what is needed in any industry, no matter what. And then you will find that you will create that positive space that people will flow to.
I learned how to dig a ditch night 2.
Night 2, ditch digging.
And I promise you, it was this deep and this wide and this straight and
Just like you were told.
Just like you were told.
just like I was told.
The success is to just make sure you just tell people. Train your replacement.
Yeah, oh, so such a great thing to say.
Yeah.
Hey, how can I go up if there isn't someone to step into my position? Right. And the theory of keeping people at an arm's distance, because if you learn too much about what I know, I'm threatened.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case, man.
Yeah.
That's success. Bringing people along, success.
We recently have been discussing it at the leadership team level that we would add and needing to add a core value to the 5 that already exist at Matrix, which is people as the foundation. And in the coming day, we'll have the graphics to demonstrate that, but where people are the foundation of what it is that we do. And what we do is build premium quality tooling for the drilling industry. That's what we do.
It's wild. We said that drilling is the start of everything, and it absolutely is. We don't progress civilization without drilling. You look at the first civilizations around the world. What did they have? They had access to water, or they started spring pole and they started drilling for water, and that was all people driven. So now the data is our average age in our industry is 57, 58 years old.
Right.
And by 2030, 45, most likely 50% of our industry will be retired. Though it's taboo to say that any driller really retires. But finding that next pipeline, the farm kids have been snagged up by Farm Bureau and, big ag, because farming is disappearing. Our drilling industry, when we drill down into, there's 166 million Americans that work every day. 7.6 million work in construction. That 7.6 million creates $1.4 trillion in business a year. Then you go farther down, 280,000 work in oil and gas, 570,000 work in mining. Got about 200-ish thousand that are some sort of operators. So we went from 7.6 million to 1-2%. Where do we find our people? And I think I'd like to start with Chris on this, because nepotism isn't as, I hear at this table right here, there's all sorts of kids. I got a 4 and a 6-year-old at 42, but how are you finding people? You said yesterday, I just hired a young woman to be a machinist. And we are an industry that machinists are 97% men.
Very much so. this doesn't really come down to men or women per se, as it comes down to people that have that kind of have that spark in their life.
Mindset.
They're really excited about what they're doing, no matter what they're doing, that have never ever thought about drilling, machining, however you look at it, as an option. It's an education level that, well, yeah, you know what, I'm going to be and nothing against it, but I'm going to be a dental hygienist, right? That's because that's what I do, and that would be great. And you know, people get into that business and they're great dental hygienists their whole career. It's great, but there are some that get into it and it's just not for them. But they're still great people that can be stuck looking for a different option. This young lady that we hired yesterday just so happens to be coming from the medical field, and but she's mechanical. She wants to use her hands. She wants to use her mind in a different way. And son of a gun, she must have sawed up 80 or 60, 70, 80 feet of rod yesterday on the saw day one, right?
Mhm.
And at the interview, I just said, okay, here's a tape measure. I said, show me where, 5 inches, 5 and 13/16 is. Show me. And sure, she counts it out, but she gets there, right?
Yep.
Okay, she can use a tape measure. Let's go. Right? The rest I can teach you.
Mhm.
The rest you can learn. I mean, and that is everywhere in the world. There are people who don't even know that they're drillers,
Yeah.
but they are,
The mindset.
right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, when I go to restaurants and I see a waiter or waitress that's really on the spot, and they're servicing, I'm saying, hey, you ever thought about a career in this industry? I'm not against trying to hire people right where they work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have people all the time. Every Uber ride,
Yeah.
that is an opportunity to get to know somebody behind that wheel
Yeah.
and to see what they're into.
Yeah.
And I've had great conversations with folks that turned the interviews.
Yeah.
Turned opportunities.
I hired kids right out of a Toys R Us store. Toys R Us took them to China. They got bit by the drilling bug. As far as I know, he's still in it.
This wasn't while Toys R Us was closing, and they were
Well,
China drilling seems a lot better than
This was
unemployment.
This was long before Toys R Us was on the rocks for sure. But that was the point. He was in a job that wasn't affording him a future, but he was still very courteous and very helpful. And what more could you ask for to put somebody in front of your clients?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be there in front of my clients every day, but he is. If he's courteous and respectful and can help, he's service oriented, and those are the people you want representing your company. Everything else can be taught.
Yeah, you hit spot on right there. Our jobs are everybody brings something to the table. If you want to lead, if you want to grow, if you want to teach, it's imperative that we find out what that is they bring.
Yeah.
and make it fun. Make it a place where they want to be.
Yep.
Shoot, if we're doing our jobs right, we'll make this be a career for anybody who comes with that mindset.
I mean, I've been part of large drilling companies where, everybody just has their own place. And me coming from an outsider world go, why don't you learn what this guy learns? If you're a sonic driller, why don't you learn how to run an auger rig? If you're an auger driller, why don't you learn how to run a RC rig? If you're an RC driller, why don't you learn how to run a core rig? Because in some of those experiences, when you don't have auger work, or you don't have hammer work, or you don't have case and advance work, or there's no core, there's no RC, or you can share people. And I learned early on that people were set in their ways. This is all I want to do. Well, then when we got slow, laid you off.
You were the one that got laid off.
We gave you an opportunity to come over here. And I see that in some of the dynamics of some of the customers we visit with.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also seeing people like, oh yeah, I can core an RC drill now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'm not afraid to punch a water well in the ground. They've done it so many times, maybe doing exploration holes that it's like, It's no different, no different than setting a wireline piezometer, or some sort of monitoring well. All of a sudden, the hole might be a little bigger, the casing might be a little bit different. But I think some of that aspects are changing. But then there's what you mentioned early on too, bro. So many people they've just moved away.
Yeah.
The workforce dynamic has moved away to something else. Like the boots on the ground people, where are they at? We're all, and I'm glad you talked to the Uber drivers and stuff, because there's so many people just get in a car and they look on their phone. Right? They have no conversations with anybody. You're never going to open people up to your industry. And that's where like tools like LinkedIn and even some of the Facebook platforms and things, you can share messages through the industries. You can live stream. We can go visit a customer and talk to them about drilling, and we can Facebook Live or Microsoft Teams or pre-record something to populate on LinkedIn. Then somebody, I don't know, I've had 2 or 3 people contact me on LinkedIn. Hey, you guys hiring? Oh, here we go. Here we go, looking for a machinist, or even if we're not, maybe there's somebody within our drilling organizations that are looking for help, and you connect the dots.
Shoot, somebody who's listening to this or watching this in the formats that we'll put it out there, this could be your office. If that's interesting to you, let's have a conversation.
It is interesting because water well, I've said this before, but there's nothing more satisfying, spiritual, whatever drives you. People want purpose, and making water come out of the ground, there's not a greater purpose.
Yeah. I agree. It's a great thing. You're drilling along, hit a little artesian water, it's coming back at you just at the right rate, not too fast, clean, clear, it's perfect well. Hand it over, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Don't have to pump it. But then there's the wells where you're drilling into and you hit an unbalanced zone higher than expected, and that water's coming at you and it's eating up the hole around your ground, and you've got a wild well, and woo, there's some times when water doesn't seem so nice. However, it's been said many times, I think, in different ways, but in this world, the things we use, the things we rely on, the things we need, the things we have, it's either grown or it's mined. It's dug, right? Wells are dug. Minerals, fuel. It just doesn't magically come from nowhere, and it needs to be found. And that's part of what we do. We're finders. We're finders of resource. And resource can be taken in a bad context, right? Where you're pillaging the earth, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of resource on this earth. We haven't been great managers of it. So I think stewardship is a big part. Teaching young people stewardship is something that maybe their moms and dads should have taught them a long time ago, and maybe they didn't get, or maybe they did. But that's one thing as part of a company. As Art was just saying, leaving it better than you found it, or at least try not to do no harm. That stewardship of what we're in charge of is paramount. So you remember the days where Earth first, we'll drill the other planets later mentality, right? There isn't quite anything like this place that we live, and being good stewards of it is an important part of the education of drilling, of finding resource, so that we as a human society can continue on.
It's tough to have the difficult conversation when you're in drilling. If it's from, why didn't I say stop, to a safety issue, to something that went wrong in an environmental aspect, to the wrong application at the time, and being able to admit, let's drill, baby, drill, right?
Yeah.
And so talk about a difficult conversation you've had to have on a drilling project. We'll start with Art.
Oh man. toughest one I've ever had is people taking shortcuts, right? And we talked about for the safety aspect of it, that should be second nature on a brown drill rig, right? We know it still doesn't exist. The level of where safety should be in people's minds is not quite there. Otherwise, we would put the MSHA and the OSHAs and the safety guys out of business. So until we get to that point, you've got to have those conversations. And, it's the sad part about it. Some of those cost people their careers, their jobs. At that point in time, I'd say jobs, if you're dealing with a situation like that, because their career is not looking far enough forward to realize that they should have done it right to begin with. People make mistakes, right? Nobody's perfect. And those hard conversations are just that. The hardest I've ever had is to let somebody go for failing to follow safety protocol. And we both lose out, right? You could have this individual was an 8-year employee, but he harmed somebody. And it's, we've got a lot of investment in him. He had a lot of investment in us, and we just had to part ways. That's the hardest conversation. And doing things right. I've seen some things, and this is an industry that, and I think as a person in this industry, as a young man growing into what'd you say the age of an average driller was, 57 or 58? Damn greenhorns. Anyway, so, but no, in all seriousness, it's I'll be first to admit, man, I wasn't the best, and never was I at the best, and still do I learn every day. But it's a slow evolution of learning, right? Getting to where you think is right. Now, like I said earlier, this industry teaches me something every day, and I'm thankful. But see, when I think about it, growing every day, when you see people do stupid stuff, and I'll just be point blank stupid. So, dude, this is a blink in the life of this universe. You're screwing it up right now, and what that blink can do can take up a day's worth of blinks. Don't do stuff like that, because you will impact our world negatively.
Yep.
Nothing's better than to finish a hole like this. If you're drilling a water well, can you, as a good solid driller, think of the sense of completion, the sense of what we've done right here. I live in the Western United States, struggling for water. To bring that most valuable resource to our civilization is imperative. Do it right, so we can move over 300 yards and do it again without worries, or 3 miles away, whatever the case may be.
Aaron?
I had a real tough one, and I can share all kinds of experiences, good and bad, but this one was more of a, doing the right thing, but looking out for your customer. We had a hole that we struggled on, and it was a difficult hole. It was a deep hole, and it was fighting us and fighting us and fighting us. And we had, company men who are, experienced peers in the industry. Most of them get to those jobs because, they've worked their way up. They kind of have that extra level of knowledge. And the drillers were butting heads with that company man. And he said, this is how we want it done. What you guys are saying isn't working. And you always hear those stories. What happens at the rig stays at the rig. Well, those are some of those stories that never made it back to the office. And by the time the bomb went off, basically, the proverbial bomb went off, they released our rig. They just said, we don't care what it costs, rig it up, get your rig out of there. And I think we drilled 4,000 or 5,000 foot on 8,000 foot hole. And so we pull all the drill stem out, we take the BOP off, and then we weld a cap over the top of the casing. Well, those drillers that didn't like what that company man said, they had some of their hands drop some of the BOP bolts down the hole. Well, they bring a competitor's rig in, they cut that cap off, they rig up their BOP, they go on their way. And these people put their bit in the ground And I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars that bit was, but it wasn't just the bit that they destroyed, but all the metal that was left behind. It was an integrity thing because the next thing we know, we're getting called to a lawyer's office with a bunch of pictures going, can you guys explain this to us? Oh, we don't do business like that. And I mean, my superintendents, all the way from me to the very top to the owner, go, we don't do business like that. And we had to put our tail between our legs and go, we have a problem. And we did. We realized that we had this problem, and we brought all the crews in and we set them in a room, and we're just going to ask one question: who did this? Right, wrong, or indifferent? And nobody would admit. Somebody did it because it happened before the cap got welded on, and we terminated the whole crews. We realized that if one person's going to cover them for them all, then we don't have any integrity on the rig. And that was hard because we ran 4 crews, 5 people a crew, and 2 tool pushers.
Wow.
We terminated everybody off that whole deal. Why? Because now who wants to hire those people if they're going to do that on your project? And that was hard because these are people that I knew in the community. Some of these guys were my friends. Some of these people we broke bread with, we had barbecues, and that was tough. And I've had some tough situations, but that was tough. The worst were the ones coming back after the fact going, hey, I had nothing to do with it. Man, all you had to do is speak up. All you had to do is, we're not asking you to tell on anyone. We just want the truth because we are the face. This minute, we're the face of getting you guys to work. And that was tough. That was an extremely hard one because people would question, because rumors circumvent.
Right.
Hey, I hope that doesn't happen on my side.
Hard to establish that culture you're looking for. You don't have it. You did the right thing.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard. So.
Yeah.
Nate, your perspective in difficult conversations with what I'm learning about your leadership consulting and, a 10,000 foot view of a company, again, from risk or leadership for multiple people, you must have had some wild ones. And you work with your brother.
Oh, yeah.
And I know my brother and I trying to have conversations, and they probably become more difficult than they need to, but it's family has a different way of communicating sometimes.
Sure.
Well, I couldn't agree more in some contexts, but fortunately, I think at Matrix, in the way Chris and I deploy our style, he really does have a domain, and I do have a domain, and we really try to not coach each other in those domains. Now, there have been times when I have overlapped and been like, what are we doing? Why are we doing? And he's like, sorry, bud. Just go with me for another mile before you ask me more questions, okay?
He's got that look on his face.
But over that, over the course of 20 years, I had a deep sense of trust for him and his character. And so the kind of character that steps up, and I can talk about a difficult, challenging situation in drilling, and this is specific to our product and to the kinds of things that we're trying to do. We are pushing the R&D edge because there are questions out there. There are new challenges out there to be addressed and questions that need answers and issues that need to be resolved. The world is bringing those. And so we're evolving not only as a business, but as an approach to how we go about solution making. One of the projects that we worked on was a large diameter casing designed to be applied horizontally.
HDD.
HDD. And we had invested in all the technology to build the tooling. And we were on the edge of R&D around welding the mid bodies and the tool joints together. And this is it was an application that would rapidly advance the tooling, where before you had to stop the process, weld up the casing, and then advance, and that took its own cycle. So we're now working on threaded joints for large diameter casing, and welding a big joint to a big mid body is a big task. And our first run at it put easily $1 million worth of inventory in the client's hands. And when they got into it, I don't know how many joints they were in, Chris, but they had a critical failure on our welds.
2. Two critical failures
And,
in the first 500 feet.
and so, that phone call is a tough phone call. Chris, you probably can finish the story, I think, better than myself, because you were there.
Yeah, they get there and look at it and to say, oh crap, we definitely have a problem, right? I mean, this is not as it should be. And fortunately, we were in a position that we could finish with where we were at, how we were at. They were able to continue on, but it required us to take every piece of that casing back, all $1 million of it, cut it off, fix it,
Weld it properly with proven
Properly.
systems.
with proven system, which has then helped shape us in the way that we handle this, has helped us come off with a better process. But I mean, over this small things like, geez, we don't have a saw big enough to cut this stuff. So we've got to find a saw to get it cut up so that we can then fix it. And that saw, the nearest one's 50 miles away, shipping everything there, having them cut it, shipping everything back. By the time we do that, we can buy our own saw. Well, we've not invested in a saw that would cut it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a $150,000 investment to, as we were talking about earlier in the life cycle, the design cycle, ourselves, we make it right. And if it's not right, we make it right.
Yep.
Those were investments in our system, in ourself, that we had to put in place in order to do what we said we could do. And in the end, fix it, make it right.
Yeah, so you mentioned, and I'll just tag on to the backside of that, where does leadership come in to the picture? And there are going to be days in everyone's life where you don't want to solve the problem that you are in the middle of. Maybe even one that you've created yourself. Maybe it's one that you haven't created for yourself. But not only are we trying to advance R&D, but we're also trying to advance the edge of leadership around drilling. And the client, I think, was appreciative of the way we stepped up to that challenge for them, with them.
Still working for them.
Still working for them. So
interesting enough, on our core values, one of them is learn and improve. Another one comes with client first, and on that client first, we have up in the corner, they look just like elements of the periodic table. It says 16-inch with a C, 16-inch casing. That is that job specifically. This is the time where we failed. We had to fix it and come back around in order to make the client first. A horror story would be that this was done, and then we just stepped away from it and said, oh, it's yours, you own it.
Yeah.
Right. And we know of companies that have done that. Tough, but the right thing to do. And business continues on.
And we remember, because we put it on our values.
Yep.
I once heard, actually, I've heard it a couple times, because in drilling, we have to take risks. To discover the unknown is a scary financial situation.
Yeah.
R&D in the drilling industry is on the tippy top of that scary situation of, I want to be on the leading edge, but I don't want to be on the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
And to balance everything that is money making into what does the future look like, or how can I invest into it, from, as I see with equipment manufacturers to fluids to the entire drilling system, how we train our next evolution. We get into this, we have to rush it to market, because the longer the life cycle of R&D, the more money it costs. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you come back to, we always have enough money to do it right the second time after we launched it to market. Mm-hmm. And so that's a very hard dichotomy. Absolutely. How do you, as a company, balance everything that's built this company in its roots and try to progress in industry with the unknown being, did it fail because of torque and mechanical human situations? Mm-hmm. Or did we put it into a situation that Mother Nature was never going to let us?
I think that realistically, the answer to that comes is that most companies know that they have to invent, they have to um, bring new things to the market in order to be pertinent and to sustain future, right? But a lot of times those things come in a very narrow focus window with only a few people looking at it to the point where they're blinded by something. Here as we work on projects and products, we bring to our leadership team and say, hey guys, look, we have a little dialogue called shiny objects. Is this a shiny object? Should we be involved in this? And we have some pretty critical thinkers that are like, hey, this would be a good one. This isn't a good one. Why should we be in this? Why shouldn't we be in this? Does this drive us to our goals? I mean, we have goals for the company. Does this drive us to our goals, or does it drive us away from us? Because all of those things have real impact. And if something that you're embroiling yourself in is driving you away from your goals, is it really productive for the company? Is it really productive for the industry? Is it better to let somebody else take that one on as a challenge? You have to choose and pick some things, right? Because we get great ideas thrown at us every day, and honestly,
that are exciting.
They're exciting.
Heck yeah, let's solve it.
Right, but in the end, can we do it well enough that it's going to service the industry? So,
well, at this point, we have to put our time and resources into those big lever advancements. At the stage that we're on right now, we get to pick and choose, and so why not pick the big levers?
Sure. It's an interesting question, because I mean, I've seen a lot of companies that have grown, advanced, plateaued, waned, and don't exist anymore.
On a way.
I mean, Howard Hughes is not the company that it was
right
without the tricone bit.
Right.
Even though we think of airplanes and movies and stuff, like started with drilling.
Right?
Yeah.
Started with drilling. So it really is. It's a function of realistically taking that bite that you can handle, maybe a little bigger. Because and this comes back to a story that I had. We bought a dynamic positioning system for one of our barges many years ago. Used it in Lake Malawi in Malawi, Africa. Too deep to anchor, so we had to dynamically position while we were drilling. It was a real interesting job, but the guy that sold me the thruster systems, I got to talk to him for a while, and he said, yeah, the very first one I ever did, I told the federal government we could build it, and because it was a federal job, and then a month too late, we were into it a month or two, and I went to the guy that says we can't do it, and the federal government guy said to him, he says, well, if you want a company when you're done, you better get it done. Right?
Oh, yikes.
Wow.
If you want a company to call home, you better get it done, right? So there's sometimes a little kick in the butt to get things rocking and moving, but ultimately it comes with the right people around you, because one person can focus on one thing at a time. Two people can focus on 2 things, 3, 10, and so on. But if you're all focused on the same problem, that 10 is just a magnifying power. So much can be done in such a little time. That's the beautiful part about more of a private, small family company. The agility that we have.
There's no stakeholders going.
There's questions to be answered, but there aren't people who are inactive asking them. These are active people asking the questions.
Yeah. All hands on deck, so to speak, with 10 months of history on what's gone on before, to know what questions to ask and what levers to pull as we're trying to solve for things. And so everybody does have when Chris says 10 people around an issue, the way we've structured our organization at the leadership team level, we've mirror copied the kinds of weekly activities that happen at the leadership team level at each of the intact groups below them, so that everyone can
Yep.
touching on solution making throughout the week, and we feel like that has helped us have a multiplier effect in our organization. We're not perfect by any means, but
Those same problems and key issues that we're trying to tackle go all the way down to the very, very, very bottom.
yeah,
And they're all thinking about it. We're getting the suggestion box. It just gets lit up.
it does. The
It's
machines on the
amazing.
floor get exposed to the same issues that we're thinking about.
I had somebody, Brock, tell me earlier this year, a manufacturer. I asked him about a brochure they had, and I said, "You guys make all this stuff?" "Oh, we try." And I go, how well does that work for you? Because knowing how we work behind the scenes at Matrix, whether we have sophisticated machines or we have guys that have to manually input and manually machine stuff, the starts and the stops, the chucking and the unchucking, whether it's robotically controlled or human, it's a lot of work. And I looked at this gamut of things and I go, well, how successful were you last year? We didn't do it very good. Why? Because I try to appease these customers in so many different facets that we've lost focus. And I look at Matrix and I go, there are things, and we talk about shiny objects, but there are things that we just say no. We can build things and we could probably build that, but I'm going to be real with you. The answer is no.
Because it's this.
Yeah.
There's a solution that already exists, and it's not that.
And here's the phone number to these people that do this.
Or we do it in a
You
different
know,
way, yeah.
I mean,
We do it the right way here.
In a different way, yeah.
Sorry. No, I mean,
Back to Aaron and Art in this R&D life cycle and the no to yes, we've said yes. How do you find that early adopter? And how do you align their expectations with what the goal is of that new tool? Because again, pulling the curtain back, a ton of good R&D happens at the back of somebody's shop with a cutting torch.
right.
And we go, dang, that was a great idea. Or why did you do that when you could have just done this? But when it comes to new equipment, we are very slow to adopt, and finding, how do you find your early adopters, those people that trust in what you're about to do? How do you align that expectations of what this product needs to be versus where it can totally end up being if all we do is take the notes and keep going back and changing the design?
Well, I think it's the bottom line is listen to the problem. And then those problems have got to come from the right people, right? It can't be at tailgate at the hotel drinking beer and complaining about something. What is the real root of the problem here?
I've solved a lot of problems there.
Lots of
Sometimes I just want to be hurt.
millions of feet drilled with a beer, right? But when you find out what the real problem is, and you hear from the right person, right people, and you look at it and go, man, I didn't realize that. Those are the people that you go, okay, now we've got a problem. Here's what we need. Here's how we need to address it. Here's a solution, I believe, that would, in my mind, this is a solution. Nate and Chris both talked about the 10-person level. Everybody's perspective is completely different, and that's what makes things work. For me, where I sit is like, I never thought about that. He never run a dang drill rig in his life, but once again, the dumbest eyes on the drill rig, right? Go.
Should you just call your boss down?
Well, Maurer said it earlier. So you see that and you go, oh, I never thought about that. Thank you. You go over here and go, hey, this is what your brother said. No.
Yeah, right.
So, in all seriousness, you look at that problem. Once you go, how did we miss that? Now it's something worth, if it moves the needle within the industry, whatever drilling discipline it may be, got a problem. Let's get a solution. And those 10 sets of eyes look at it and you go, okay.
We can get behind that, or we can get behind a pathway.
Yeah.
well, so many of our rigs, we talk about safety and we talk about carousels and things and talk about R&D and things. We've had customers go, you know what, how do we figure out getting your pipe in my rig? So I call Chris. Hey, Chris, could you get out your blueprint and you do this? And Chris gets out there and sod works and he's, well, we can shave a little bit here and do this and it'll fit. or we can add a wrench key here and it'll fit. Or guess what, guys? And what do we have just happened this last week? In order to make your flats work, this has got to be a little bigger. Like there's no way, I don't care, you can't move heaven and earth. You can't put a wrench flat on this diameter. It's got to be this. But we've got the engineers and we've got this awesome team where they're solutions providers. And if the answer is no, we don't BS the customer.
Yeah.
We tell them the answer is no. If we can't find an engineered solution to what we're trying to accomplish, we will be real with them. But I don't know, probably 95% of those conversations, we can make a yes out of. Do they always turn out into opportunities? No. Sometimes we see those opportunities end up somewhere else or they just get shelved. But we talk about them, we think about them, we figure out a better solution to make things work. And it's exciting. And people are listening.
It is very important to understand the capabilities of your tools, your equipment, your people, but even more important to know their limitations.
Yeah.
You know, that's the key to drilling. It is very easy for me to be in a very remote location in the middle of the Atacama Desert and get on the phone with technical service and come back, well, if we have this triplex and we have this rig and we do this with this bit, we can complete this job. And suddenly I have to say, the best tool right now is the most readily available one that we're still trying to figure out where to get batteries for.
Yeah.
But how do we maximize this?
Yeah. The general rule, I think, is that if you're open to ask the questions, you're open to receiving the answers,
Feedback, for sure.
you're going to learn a whole lot about yourself. You're going to learn a whole lot about your drill. You're going to learn a whole lot about your product. I remember a couple of times talking about hard drilling situations, right? One night I get a 2 a.m. wake up. We're 40 miles off New Jersey, out in the Atlantic, 100 foot to the bottom of the shelf. And the guys had just accidentally slipped the casing. And so that morning we're up, we got the ROV out, we're down looking at it, and there's a whole pile, about 120 foot of casing on the ground out there, you know, and I mean, I've never tried to recover casing off the bottom of the ocean floor, and most things you would think, oh geez, it's gone, nothing you can do about it, right? But you're sitting there with your client, because your client's right there. You're all looking at the TV. You're all going, "What do we do? I don't know. What do we do? What do you do?" And finally, you come around and you say, "Well, the right thing is to get a salvage team out here and get it picked up. It's going to cost us, and it's not going to be covered by the contract. It's the right thing to do. I mean, you're looking at the floor out there. You think the ocean floor has got tons of stuff everywhere, and it's just like you'd be able to lose pipe in that. No, this is like just miles and miles and miles of nothing, right? Sand, and it is just like a great big ball of pickup sticks out there. Well, you start calling around, you start asking, okay, salvage company, this, hey, do you know there? You know, here's a team of divers. Hey, we could be out there Wednesday. It's going to cost you this. Oh, okay. We're moving to our next site, right? That hole's a bust. We're moving to our next site. And, 5-6 days later, get pictures of all the casing up on the deck of a boat. You're able to turn over your client, said, it's picked up. Here it is.
We got it.
We got it. It's done. It's not out there. It's not a hazard. It's not anything. It's clean. You know, you left it the way you found it. And it's very easy under 100 feet of water to just have been able to just go, it'll just rust away. Or it'll fall into the sand and be gone. All things that probably would have happened eventually. But we asked the questions, things we didn't know, things we didn't know how to do. Asked the right questions, got the right people there, got it done, took care of it. It was a speed bump, but it didn't ruin the job. And our relationship with our client got better. There's got to be a certain level of respect about doing it the right way. So ultimately, when you don't know, don't make up an answer. Just say you don't know. and then get someone on the horn. You can take 15 minutes and make a call.
So last question for all four of you. We've been focusing on, where we can go. And a big piece of that is this next generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. They want purpose. They don't believe they need to go to college.
Yep.
Got about 3,650,000 of them that are going to graduate. So advice or elevator pitch to come into this industry?
Tell you what, if back when I went to school, you only had two ways to learn something. You had to have someone teach it to you, or you had to have one heck of an encyclopedia. And the topics in the encyclopedia were very shallow, right? There wasn't internet. There wasn't a way to go out. Email was just barely coming online. You could barely communicate with each other faster than a stamp and a post. There wasn't a lot of options for me that way. Today, I don't see college as the right course for every person. Now, what does that mean? I mean, yeah, you have a 4-year degree. Great. You stuck to something. It tells me something about you. You stuck to it. You finished it, right? Great. That's great. But there are so many great opportunities in vocational schools these days. And we struggled hard in the last 2-3 decades of vocational school, learning trades, but these are good paying jobs, needed jobs. This isn't something where you're going to go sit in an office and feel unneeded every day. You're needed. So over 3 million some odd people, 1,000 of them, put an application in a matrix.
Let's go.
And you know
You're
what?
going to need a bigger HR.
We're going to need a bigger HR, but gosh dang it, we have a lot of contacts in this drilling world that have a need to. We can get you in touch with them, because there are good jobs where you're needed.
Yeah.
And they're tough. They're hard. And at the end of the day, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to go to bed. You're going to go to sleep. You're going to be primed for the next day, because this is a challenge. It's not for the faint of heart.
I think about when I'm tired and ready to wrap things up, and Katie and I are enjoying one of those companies. We want the gas to turn on. We want the light switches to come on. With the lights to come on when we put the switch, we're going to need good people behind us that want to step into the shoes of those of us who at that point will have transitioned. It's no different than what we're doing right now. And so how do we be inspiring is a great question to capture interest and attention of this greatest resource that we have. What is the greatest resource that we have on this planet? It's those that are coming up. There's no question about it in my mind. In our discipline and what we do from machining and welding, you could think of us as, mini Michelangelos, because what we take out of our machines are parts where we took a product from the earth, we pulled it out, and it's ready to go do something to be used, and it's useful, and that useful thing creates something. And so in that way, we are creators, and we share that role with the good people who choose to come to work for us. And I think at the core of what we could do at our highest and best, when we're doing our best, we're actually creators. We're additive in the world that we live in today, and giving back in the same style that I think we've heard from others, which is do less harm, and leave things as good, if better, than when you picked it up, when you were.
Look at the world today now. I mean, just even within Matrix, we have robots. How many people can say, "Hey, I got robots in my organization"? That draws in people that like technology.
Sure
Or
does.
some of the gamers, or some of the programmers. These people that can write code. Well, guess what? Machining is. This latest round of machining is writing code. It's taking numbers and putting them in and getting out a component. And the industry has gotten safer. We talk about, us as a manufacturing, The drilling industry has gotten safer. The equipment has gotten safer. I haven't been on more rigs where I've seen more buttons that stop and shut things off as the last 5 years. And it doesn't matter what kind of component, the manufacturers are putting equipment out that's trying to keep people safe. And now it's hands-free rod handling. You know, there's over torque sensors and there's all kinds of things. So, you know, us as advocates in the industry, if there's those young people that aren't aspiring to go to college and maybe they don't want to go to a trade school, you know, we can connect them and we can actually share with them because, you know, I have kids as well too, and I won't tell my kids to go do something else. 20 years ago, don't mess with this, you're gonna get yourself hurt. But nowadays, I feel like you can go into any of these industries that we're surrounded by and come in safe and have a career and leave safe. You know, pass on, and that's what we have to do kind of as advisors, you know, share the experiences. You know, don't candy coat them all, but share what's coming out of the industry now. Not what 20 or 30 years ago is. Talk about it now, because that's what kids are looking at now. You know, they like the computers, they like all that fun stuff. Well, that's part of our industry now.
Yeah.
Or will be shortly.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, Brock, I came into this industry and this world that we're sharing today for a 6-month run, right? And not for 1 second, I can say with a clear heart, do I regret the path I've chosen in life. This industry has provided for me, my family, it's provided well. Where I sit now is that when I look at young people, my 2 younger sons are in the industry, they love it. I even say to them, you guys are kind of getting stagnant. The reason I say that is, you know, you're 20 plus years younger than me. Look forward to tomorrow. Look to tomorrow all the time. All this stuff right here we're looking at and all the things that we are involved in, and you know, to re-say what, if you will, re-quote Nate, it's got to start with drilling, right? What industry can you be in right now that says that you're guaranteed some work? Everything that we use is got to be mined
or farmed.
Right? So there's plenty of work to do out there, despite the cyclical history of our industry. But you have an opportunity to make a change that will bear generations, will influence generations. The technology that came in here, like I said, I was one of those guys that got into this RC world. That's going to be a short-lived thing, son. You need to learn how to do this. Hell, I gotta. Oh, these people could come in. People could come into this industry right now and truly charter what happens next.
Some big nexts.
I mean, it's huge. It's. I mean, I that's all I can say. That the possibilities are endless, and I'm not a good salesman, but I am truly believe that.
That's perfect. You know, thank you guys for coming out and doing this today. For everybody out there in podcast world or watching this video, their phones have been ringing off the hook because they're experts and they're great at their business, and they've taken time out to share this knowledge. A little bit cleanup. Chris referred to something called an encyclopedia. You know, then we kind of had these things on a CD, then it went to Google, and now it's Wikipedia. Yeah, that's where that pedia part comes from. And Nate also referred to mini Michelangelos. That was the artist and inventor, not the Ninja Turtle.
Not Ninja Turtle.
And Matrix and robots, you just gonna have to go work for them to figure out where that comes in.
Come out, check us out. Come out, look.
We have covered some great things today, and what I'm excited about is we haven't even gotten into these men's technical prowess of reverse circulation and mining and sonic and creating drilling applications in impossible places. So be aware, because there's going to be a lot more knowledge to be shared from these awesome folks. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Brock.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for joining our Drill Talk. If you'd like to know more about our guests, please click on their logo and go to their website. To find more Drill Talks, go to thedriller.com. Please subscribe there for unlimited access to this series, the latest news impacting the drilling and water industry, original columns from drilling professionals like you, and so much more. Drilling into topics that matter most to you is what compels us at thedriller.com to go deeper. Thanks again.